Hello, my name is Lindsay Lobby, and this is my video for my sociology final project for the term, week 8. So we'll start off with the first prompt, which is give an example of how social change has affected physical environment, population, innovation, diffusion, and mass media. Just so you know, I don't have any of this written down. I'm just kind of going off of some bullet points that I brought up. So forgive me if it's a little disorganized. So, social change, medical advancements, technological advancements, um, just having, women's rights legalized. So, for example, the fact that abortion is legalized in all 50 states to an extent. There's still some pushback for it. Um, but abortion, birth control, things like the Plan B pill, those are all legal, and that has changed it's a population control at this point as well because people aren't having children at the rates that they were having because they have access to safe birth control and safe options. There's medical advancements, so people are living longer because our healthcare system is, it's leaps and bounds ahead of where it used to be. And our technological advancements. So we have a lot of innovation, things are being produced faster, quicker, easier, that require less manpower, but it also affects the environment by, climate change, because we have all these factories and, you know, everything's about convenience now, but we don't really stop and think about what we might be doing to the environment because we want our convenience. Um, One thing that I think is relevant is the delivery systems that we've been using during the pandemic. So, like your food delivery systems and just like your grocery delivery systems because of technology, um, and mass media, because people know about them through media outlets, like a lot of social media. That's something that we didn't have 10 years ago. So, people are able to get food delivered to them from their favorite restaurants. And, I've had my groceries delivered to me multiple times just so that I didn't have to leave my house. Um, while all this was going on. And that's a very big luxury that we have now. Um, and the difference in the mass media is that, not only do we have the usual news sites that you see, so you have CNN, MSN, CBS, Fox News, all of those typical things that have been around for a long time. But you also have all of these, online journals, and you have Huffington Post and the Washington Times and New York Post. Those are all, you know, online sources of media that have, quite frankly, they've induced a lot of the hysteria surrounding the pandemic. There's a lot of rumors that went around because of the mass media, um, and the influences that they have. So, okay, second prompt. The information revolution was and still is an important perspective in social change. In your opinion, how has it changed society and how do you feel it will change society in the future? So the information revolution, with that, we have access to information like we never did before. It's never been easier. If you want to know something, you just go online and you Google it. It's very simple. Um, everybody has smartphones now, so you can literally just pull your phone out of your pocket and type in any question that you have and find relatively reliable sources for the most part. We'll get to that part. There's social media has really changed the way that we interact with other people. Um, you have Facebook, Instagram, you know, Reddit, all of these different outlets where you can interface and communicate with anyone you want pretty much from the comfort of your own home, which I think has kind of taken away a little bit of how we interact with people once we're face to face with them, especially, during this time in the pandemic. when people aren't getting that normal amount of social interaction that they usually would have, I think that it's going to be really interesting to see if people even remember how to have a normal conversation with someone in person once they leave their house again and, start seeing people in person. Um, One of the big things that I see an issue with the information revolution is people that share information without fact checking, which is a really big problem currently in the United States with our political climate. You know, Political climate and with the pandemic that's going on, people share information and they don't make sure any of it is correct or true. And that can cause a real problem because once people start believing that, it becomes almost like this hive mindset where getting them to, you know, think that maybe they're wrong becomes almost impossible. And that kind of falls in line with, sharing of the false propaganda that might come out from some news sources that they want you to be on their side. So they're sharing all this information and it's not necessarily true, but it fits the narrative that they want you to think and see. So how has modernization changed many underdeveloped nations? So there's some good things that have come out of modernization. Um, they have access to medical care, vaccines that they didn't have before. The Bill Gates Foundation does a lot of work in modernizing countries, but not necessarily modernizing, but just providing them with assistance like, clean water, which is really great. But out of modernization also kind of comes these like people who do like fallen tourism, where, they seem like they're doing something out of the goodness of their heart and they're trying to help, but they just come for a week and really don't do anything and then just end up, you know, posting pictures on their social media to make themselves feel better. And that's kind of a problem because it makes people think that things are getting done when in reality, they didn't actually accomplish anything. They just by handing out bottles of water. And there's also, cases of people who don't have the proper medical training going to these third world countries and essentially practicing skills on these patients when they don't have the credentials to do so, which is just really not okay. And I think that's a really dark spot of you know people going to underdeveloped nations and trying to help or modernize these places. And also some of like the more economic issues that come out of modernization is that once, a first world country comes in and modernizes this area, they then rely on other country, like that country for resources. So, you know, um, and then the first world country kind of exploits that underdeveloped nation for their resources as well. And it can be inadvertently bad for women in some countries because women aren't valued, um, in the same way that they are in some of the more developed countries. So they might be socialized and industrialized, but they aren't getting higher paying jobs, but, then they're expecting to fall into these roles, um, because their country has been modernized. And then, all they can get are low paying jobs that really don't provide for them. Okay, what are the types of social movements that have occurred in history? When and why did they occur? So one that comes to mind is the women's suffrage uh, social movement, and that started in 1848. And basically, women were tired of being treated as second-class citizens. They wanted rights. They wanted to be able to vote. Um, they wanted to be able to go to work if they wanted to, and they eventually did get the right to vote in 1920 with the 19th Amendment. Um, but it took almost a decade, or I mean, excuse me, almost a century to get that passed. And then another one would be the civil rights movement, which began in the mid 1950s. And that is essentially, minorities like African Americans, they, they were tired of being segregated and treated like second-class citizens, and they wanted the same rights as white people, and they wanted to be able to have the privileges that white people had. And the Civil Rights Act finally passed in 1964. Um, and that was when schools became integrated. So that is the end of my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Take care.